Well, it's just true in my life that accepting personal responsibility for my development and my growth was one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn. It's Mayhem Mindset Monday, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of accepting personal responsibility in your personal growth in your life. You know, this COVID-19 situation has really caused me to reflect a lot about the idea of freedom, and kind of our freedoms have been taken from us a little bit, and it's been awkward and uncomfortable for me to be in a position as an American to have to stay home, or to be told we have to stay home from one perspective, and then from the other perspective doing what's right so that everybody stays safe, and doing what's right so that we can take care of our communities and our families. And there's certainly, in the days to come, there's going to be this conversation in our culture, politically and every other way, about the fallout from what's happened. But I've been reminded, and I've been thinking a lot about freedom, and freedom is one of my core values. Last year, actually, freedom was one of the ideal values that I moved into my life. Every year I update my values, and last year freedom was something that I spent a lot of time thinking about and studying, all the way from, hey, when my feet hit the floor in the morning, am I really free, or am I being influenced? I thought about it from the perspective of being influenced or being the person who's influencing. And so I started with being really careful about what I was thinking about, or what I allowed into my mind or my eyes right away in the morning. Was I checking social media or emails right away, or was there some sort of buffer in the morning, just to make sure that my thoughts were my thoughts and I wasn't being influenced and being led? So I started thinking about it at that level. Am I free? Am I an influencer? And then all the way to government and politics. What do I really believe about freedom? And so today, I want you to think about this idea of, are you choosing and are you free when it comes to your own personal development? If I go back 20 years ago, I know that I was a person who, as I began to grow, who was too reliant on other people and other people's opinions. And I wasn't secure in who I was as a person. And I lost one of the most valuable friendships I've had. This friend of mine really had supported me, and he really gave to me too much, to the point where it wasn't healthy, and I lost that friendship, and I was never able to repair it. And that's something that stuck with me all the time. And the greatest influence in my life when I was young was my uncle, Jim Hensel. And Uncle Jim was like a father to me. And so in the dark times back in the day, 20 years ago, when I was going through all the challenges and this idea of really developing my own personal identity and really owning my own values, really was something I began to focus and work at. Uncle Jim was the guy who challenged me and arrested me to begin to take ownership in my life. I was driving with him in the car one day, and it was shortly after my wife had left and the divorce and all that was going on, and I had just been complaining to him in the car. We were driving to the store, and I was complaining and blaming other people for all my problems, and talking about my dad and what he had done to me, and this is what my ex-wife had done to me. And Uncle Jim was a soft-spoken person, but we just had pulled into the parking lot and parked the car, and all of a sudden he slammed his hand down on the dash of the car, and he looked at me with this intensity that I hadn't seen from him, and he just said, when are you going to accept responsibility for your own life and for your own actions, and when are you going to be the person who decides who you are, where you're going, and what you're going to do, and stop blaming other people? And that was really the moment in my life that moving forward, when it comes to development in my life, I'm always going to go back to, hey, Jim, what's your responsibility here? You're free. The greatest gift you've been given in life is choice. What choice will you make here, and what do you think about it first? So when it comes to this idea of understanding purpose or defining yourself, be careful. Be careful. Here's the lesson that I learned. If finding purpose in your life or discovering purpose in your life, that's a myth. There's no such thing as finding it, and there's no such thing as discovering it. Purpose isn't discovered, purpose is defined. It's up to you to look inside of who you are. I believe that purpose, this idea of purpose, is something that we're created with and we're born with, and it's inside us. And that we have the ability and the power to look inside of who we are, and from the heart out, really take a strong look at who we are, what we believe, and where we're going, put that on paper, and really, really create the idea of what purpose is in your life. It's not something you're going to stumble on. You can read all the best-selling books out there from all the top authors. I think you can watch all the TED Talks, talk to all the important people who were smart in your life, and get perspective. But in the end, I think in order for you to really understand who you are, create identity, and decide what's purpose in your life, you have to define it. At this point in the culture, at this point where we're at right now in the culture, this is a really good time to stop, take stock in who you are and where you're headed, and do some reorganization. And I think in the end, as an American, this process starts with you